Have you ever started a garden with such high hopes and dreams of delicious homegrown salads? Herbs at your fingertips and beautiful blooms all around, only to be bitterly disappointed when your plants wither away? If you answered yes, don't worry. You are not alone. In this episode of Beginner Gardening Bootcamp, we'll share 10 very common mistakes that new gardeners make, often unconsciously, that end up ruining their garden before it even has a chance to get going. Now, let's face it, starting a garden is hard work. There's so much to learn about plant selection, soil quality, watering techniques, pest control, and the list goes on. Fortunately, we've been there too. That's why we've taken the liberty of compiling some of the biggest blunders new gardeners make so you can avoid them altogether. This way you can kick-start your gardening journey with confidence, knowing you have the best practices down pat from day one. So grab a trowel, a cup of tea, and let us dig into the top 10 most common mistakes that kill new gardens. Mistake No. 1. Watering too much. One of the most common and costly mistakes new gardeners make is overwatering. It's actually responsible for killing off more young plants than any other issue, and the truth is watering is a balancing act. Your goal is to keep the soil moist, but not soggy. Think of it like Goldilocks and the Three Bears: not too wet, not too dry, just right. Overwatering happens when you give your plants more water than they need. And this can be a real problem, especially for newbies who just want their plants to do well. But here's the thing, extra water doesn't equal extra good. In fact, it can be downright harmful. When you water too much, you increase the risk of root rot. This happens when the roots stay wet for too long and certain fungi and bacteria start to multiply. Before you know it, your once healthy roots turn into a slimy, foul-smelling mess and your plant dies. The good news is that avoiding overwatering is easy. First, check the soil moisture by sticking your finger about an inch into the soil. Water only when the soil feels dry to the touch. Second, make sure your pot has drainage holes. These holes allow excess water to escape and prevent your plant's roots from becoming waterlogged. Third, choose the right plants for your space. Some plants need more water than others. So do your research or ask a local expert to find out how much water your particular plants need. By following these simple tips, you can avoid overwatering and keep your plants happy and healthy. Mistake No. 2. Putting plants in the wrong sunlight. A common pitfall new gardeners encounter is planting in the wrong sunlight. Yeah, you might think all plants just need some sunshine, but it's not that simple. Different plants have different needs. Some love to soak up all the sun they can get, while others prefer a bit of shade. For example, let's take tomatoes. They're real sun worshippers. They need at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight to grow and produce lots of fruit. On the other hand, hosters are shade lovers. They thrive in areas that receive only a few hours of direct sunlight per day. If you put a hoster in full sun, its leaves might end up burning and wilting. But it gets trickier. Some plants, like hydrangeas and rhododendrons, prefer slightly acidic soil, while others, like lilacs and roses, prefer slightly alkaline soil. Plus, there are also plants that love consistently moist soil, like ferns, and those that prefer to dry out a bit between waterings, like lavender. The bottom line, if you don't meet these specific requirements, your plants may not survive, or if they do, they won't flower or produce fruit. To avoid this mistake, do your homework before you plant. Find out how much light, water, and what type of soil your plants need to thrive. Once you know their specific needs, you can choose the right spot in your garden and give them the conditions they need to flourish. Mistake number 3. Using the wrong soil. Using the wrong soil is another common misstep that many new gardeners make. Picture this. You've got a brand new bag of potting soil, and it looks so rich and dark. You think to yourself, more is definitely better. So you load up your plant's container with loads of this premium soil mix. But here's the catch. Not all soils are created equal, and sometimes less really is more. For instance, let's talk about nutrients. Potting soils typically contain essential nutrients for your plants to grow. However, if you use too much, those nutrients can become concentrated to the point where they burn the roots and harm the plant. Additionally, overly rich soil can create a false sense of security. When soil has excessive nutrients, it can lead to lush, leafy growth, making it seem like your plants are doing great. But behind the scenes, the roots aren't developing properly. This means when you transplant the plant, those fragile roots can't handle the stress and the plant ends up dying. The solution: aim for a well-draining soil that provides adequate nutrition. A general-purpose potting mix is usually a safe bet for most plants. And, as always, be sure to research your specific plant's needs. Remember, it's not about the quantity of the soil, it's about the quality and balance of it. Mistake number 4. Skipping mulch. Mulch is like a protective blanket for your plants. It helps retain moisture in the soil, keeping the roots hydrated and reducing the need for frequent watering. But without mulch, your soil can quickly become dry, especially during hot, sunny days. The result: you're left with thirsty plants that may end up wilting or worse, dying. But that's not all. Mulch also acts as a natural weed killer. It creates a barrier that prevents weed seeds from germinating, saving you from having to pull pesky weeds by hand. Weeding might seem like a small task, but it can become a time-consuming chore if left unchecked. Furthermore, mulch helps regulate soil temperature. It insulates the soil, protecting plant roots from extreme temperatures. During summer heat waves, it can help keep the soil cooler, preventing root burn. And in the winter, it acts as an insulator, safeguarding roots from freezing temperatures. Plus, mulch has a way of breaking down over time, gradually enriching the soil with organic matter. This natural fertilization process encourages healthy plant growth and improves the soil's overall fertility. By adding mulch to your garden beds, you'll save yourself from these headaches and ensure your plants stay happy and healthy. Mistake no. 5. Using too much fertilizer. Picture this. You're a new gardener filled with enthusiasm and eager to see your plants flourish. You pick up some fertilizer, convinced it's the key to success, but then you go overboard. You think more fertilizer equals more growth. So you start applying it liberally to your plants. Sounds logical, right? Well, not exactly. You see, plants need nutrients to grow, and fertilizer provides these essential nutrients. However, just like water, too much fertilizer can harm your plants. Excess fertilizer can cause the leaves to turn yellow or brown and wither away, and that's just the beginning. When there's an excessive amount of fertilizer in the soil, it can lead to a phenomenon known as fertilizer burn. This happens when the roots end up getting damaged due to high concentrations of fertilizer, salts. The result, your plants may appear wilted and lifeless. Even worse, an overabundance of fertilizer disrupts the delicate balance of microorganisms in the soil. These tiny helpers are crucial for long-term soil health and plant growth. Plus, fertilizers that contain high levels of nitrogen can encourage rapid, unchecked growth. This may seem like a good thing initially, but it makes the plant more susceptible to pests, diseases, and extreme weather conditions. The secret to success lies in moderation. Choose a balanced, slow-release fertilizer and apply it in the recommended amounts. This will give your plants the nutrients they need without causing harm. Mistake No. 6. Crowding plants. Have you ever stepped into a garden store and been captivated by the vibrant colors and variety of plants just waiting to be taken home? It's easy to get carried away, imagining each plant thriving in your garden. But here's where caution comes in. Crowding plants is a common mistake made by enthusiastic gardeners. You might think giving them company will help, but in reality, it does more harm than good. When plants are too close together, they compete for essential resources like water, nutrients, and sunlight. Picture this. You've got 3 tomato plants, each with big dreams of producing juicy, ripe fruit. But they're crammed into a small space. The result, instead of sharing the wealth, they start fighting for survival. The middle plant struggles to grow because the ones on the sides cast large shadows, blocking precious sunlight. And with limited water and nutrient availability, all 3 plants suffer. This competition for resources weakens the plants, making them more vulnerable to pests, diseases, and extreme weather conditions. It also affects the quality of the produce. Take tomatoes, for example. If they're crowded, they might still produce fruit, but the tomatoes themselves won't taste as flavorful or as sweet. The fix: research the mature size of the plants you want to grow and give them enough room to spread out. This way, each plant has access to the resources it needs to thrive. Mistake number 7: planting at the wrong time. The thrill of a new season. You eagerly anticipate the arrival of spring or fall, eager to start planting. But hold on. Not all plants are created equal when it comes to seasonal preferences. Let's take tomatoes. They absolutely love warmth. Trying to plant them too early in the spring, when the soil is still cold, can shock the roots and hinder their growth. On the other hand, let's consider lettuce. It thrives in cooler temperatures. Planting it in the middle of a heat wave can stress the plant and delay its growth. The solution is to understand the concept of plant hardiness zones. These zones indicate the average minimum winter temperatures in your area. Knowing your zone helps you determine when it's safe to plant various crops. Research the specific requirements for the plants you want to grow and align them with your local climate. This way, you'll ensure your plants have the best chance of survival and growth. Mistake No. 8. Ignoring local conditions. Every gardener dreams of having a flourishing garden filled with vibrant blooms and bountiful harvests. But sometimes we make the mistake of ignoring local conditions. For example, let's say you live in an area with hot, dry summers and cool, rainy winters. You might be tempted to plant heat and drought-tolerant plants, like succulents and cacti for the summer and flowering bulbs and cool season vegetables like lettuce and radishes for the winter. However, by ignoring local conditions, you might inadvertently choose plants that struggle in your specific environment. For instance, if you continue to try growing those succulents during the winter months when temperatures drop and rainfall increases, their chances of survival diminish. Succulents prefer warm, dry conditions and struggle in prolonged periods of cold, wet weather. Similarly, planting heat-loving crops like tomatoes and basil in early spring, when the soil is still cold, can shock their roots and stunt their growth. The solution: research native or well-adapted plants. Native plants have evolved to thrive in local conditions, requiring less watering, maintenance, and are more resistant to pests and diseases. If you're unsure about which plants will do well in your area, consult local nurseries or gardening experts. They can provide valuable insights and recommendations based on your specific location. Mistake No. 9. Not labeling plants. Imagine stepping into your garden and being greeted by rows upon rows of green. You know there are tomatoes, peppers, and herbs somewhere among the foliage. But you can't quite remember where you planted what. Not labeling your plants is a common oversight that can cause confusion, frustration, and even loss of your harvest. Let's face it, even the most experienced gardeners sometimes forget where they planted certain crops or what varieties they are. The solution is to label your plants. Create a simple system that works for you. You can use plant markers, garden tags, or even a notebook to keep track of your plants. This way, you'll always know exactly what you're reharvesting and avoid accidental weeding or pruning of the wrong plant. Mistake number 10: giving up too early. Starting a garden can be incredibly rewarding, but it's also a journey that requires patience and resilience. Many new gardeners make the mistake of giving up too early. They face challenges like pests, diseases, weeds, or simply a slower than expected harvest and become discouraged. The truth is, successful gardening takes time. It may take a season or two to learn the nuances of your local climate, soil type, and plant choices. The solution is to educate yourself and be persistent. Learn about common garden issues and their solutions. Don't hesitate to seek advice from experienced gardeners or local experts. And above all, celebrate the small victories along the way. Whether it's a single ripe tomato or a patch of thriving herbs, appreciate the progress and enjoy the journey of nurturing life. And there you have it, folks. Our comprehensive guide to avoiding the top 10 mistakes that can derail your new garden before it even takes off. As we wrap up this episode of Beginner Gardening Bootcamp, we want to remind you that gardening is a journey, not a destination. It's filled with learning, experiences, and occasional setbacks. But the joy of nurturing life and reaping the rewards of your labor make it all worthwhile. If you found this advice helpful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on our weekly dose of gardening how-tos. And if you're eager to dive deeper into specific topics, check out the links in the description below for more detailed guides and resources. Until next time, happy gardening, and remember, every small step you take brings you closer to a thriving green oasis.